Representative Dubitsky of the 47th, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are here talking about banning the disposal of material used in a process that generates a significant portion of the energy in this country. And in creating that waste, a lot of research has been conducted as to how that process should work. Fracking is a relatively new process. We probably all remember back in the 70s and 80s, there was talk about we're quickly running out of oil, that the world is going to run out of oil in 10 years. And due to the innovation of the people of this country, we were able to develop processes where we can unleash vast amounts of additional energy, greatly reducing the price of energy, which in turn reduces the cost of all products and services in this country. It reduces the price of transportation, it reduces the price of manufacturing, and it reduces the price of many, many products that we use every day. So one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to stifle the innovation that has produced so much energy for this world. We allow all kinds of hazardous waste to be processed, stored, and disposed of in this state. With this particular process, we're singling it out, and we're saying we don't want anybody to store or dispose of hazardous waste from this particular process. Any other process is fine, but we're singling one out. And as the proponent has said, we're doing so because there seems to be a movement around the state to ban this substance or these substances. In fact, last night in my very own town, my town passed an ordinance that would ban the disposal of fracking waste in the town. A number of other towns in my district have either already done so or are planning on doing so as well. And to the proponent's statement that this bill is designed to sort of get in front of that wave, I appreciate that. I have some doubts as to whether or not this bill will actually prevent any town that is currently considering such an ordinance from enacting it, but I do believe that regulations and laws regarding the disposal of various substances, especially substances that are not even produced in this state, should be handled at a state level and not at a local level. But the bill as it is proposed is very broad. What it does essentially is it bans the substance virtually entirely. Nobody can bring fracking waste into the state. Nobody can dispose of it. Nobody can transport it. Nobody can process it. Nobody can research on it. Nobody can turn it into non-toxic products and services. You know, one of the things that we as a legislature and we as a society are trying to encourage is recycling, right? We've got many bills that we have discussed in the Environment Committee. No doubt a number of them will come to the floor. We've certainly voted on and debated a lot of them in previous sessions with regard to recycling. Well, my understanding of fracking waste is that it is essentially a conglomeration of many different chemicals that are used in the process of drilling, and some of those chemicals we use in this state. We use for the fracking chemicals are used for lubricants for the drills. They're used for as sort of surfactants to keep things from bubbling. They're used to pressurize the rock and break the rock. There are a number of different chemicals. Many of them, admittedly, are pretty darn nasty things. They're pretty nasty chemicals. So when the drill is pulled back up, very often this soup of nasty chemicals comes back up as well and is essentially contained, is captured and contained, and is transported. So we've got these essentially tankers full of this soup of various chemicals. Well, what do we do with this stuff? What do we do with a tanker full of liquid that is completely filled with a variety of nasty chemicals? Well, people who are thinking about it would say, let's figure out a way to separate those chemicals out and reuse them. We want to recycle. The people of the country have been encouraging recycling, and certainly the people in this chamber have been encouraging recycling. So how do we recycle these chemicals when they're all mixed together? I don't know. And at the moment, I'm told neither does anybody else. So what we need is innovation. What we need is research. What we need is a bunch of guys in white lab coats getting samples of this stuff and testing it and trying to figure out how to break it up into the basic chemicals, how to recycle these chemicals, and how to reuse them, how to turn this tanker full of chemicals into something that is safe to be either reused or disposed of, and something that poses no danger to the environment or to people. This is what we should be encouraging. We should be encouraging this type of research. Under current law allows 3 companies to get a permit from DEEP to bring a certain amount of fracking waste into the state for the purpose of doing research, for trying to break the stuff down into its basic elements, for trying to figure out a way to make it safe, to do research to try to figure out how to recycle this material. Unfortunately, this bill eliminates that completely. This bill says that nobody can do any research on fracking waste to try to get it to be safe. And I think that's a little too broad for my taste. I think that one of the things we want to make sure in this chamber that we don't do is stifle innovation. One of the things that we want to make sure we don't do is impose unintended consequences on the people of this state. I certainly understand that the chamber, this chamber wants to get ahead of the movement, and that the towns are pushing this movement. But we are a bit more, let's say, deliberative than some of the towns. And I think in those deliberations, we need to think closely about the unintended consequences of the bills that we debate and vote on. So one of the unintended consequences of this bill is that it would eliminate all avenues of research and innovation. And we want to avoid doing that. So what we should be doing is we should be encouraging people to apply for those permits. As opposed to eliminating them, we want to encourage people to apply for the permits, to do the research on the fracking waste, so we don't have a fracking waste problem in this country. What we need is a couple of good research companies to figure out how to eliminate the fracking waste problem in this country, and we want those people to be in Connecticut. We don't want somebody in Pennsylvania to figure it out. We want somebody in Connecticut to figure it out. We want the company in Connecticut to build the business, to hire the employees, to develop the research and processing facilities in Connecticut. And unfortunately, this underlying bill would stifle that. Now, Mr. Speaker, there's an easy way to solve that problem. And the clerk is in possession of an amendment. It's LCO 6687. And I ask that the amendment be called and that I be permitted to summarize.
Will the clerk please call LCO 6687, which be designated House Amendment Schedule A?
LCO number 6687, designated House Amendment Schedule A, and offered by Representatives Dubitsky, Case, O'Day, and France.
Yeah,
The representative seeks leave of the chamber to summarize the amendment. Is there any objections to summarization? Is there any objection? Hearing none, Representative Dubitsky, you may proceed with summarization.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what this bill does is it essentially restores the section of the existing statute that allows for innovation. It restores the section of the bill that, the section of the existing statute that allows people and companies to apply for a permit to bring a limited amount of fracking waste into Connecticut, no more than 300 gallons at a time, to research and try to turn the material into a useful and safe substance. So essentially, it just restores that section of the underlying statute, and it makes other minor corrections, such as eliminating the dates, that there's an internal date that needs to be removed, but the substance of the amendment is to restore just the part of the existing statute that allows for that innovation, and I ask that it be considered a friendly amendment. Through you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.